Imagine for a moment that the history of our world is not merely a sequence of political maneuvers, economic shifts, or the rise and fall of mortal men. Imagine instead that the map of the earth is a spiritual chessboard, and behind the borders of every nation there is a throne, an invisible seat of authority occupied by a being of immense power and ancient origin. When we look at the chaos of our modern age, we often ask, who is in control? But the Bible offers a much more specific and unsettling answer. According to Jesus himself, there is a legitimate, though temporary, ruler of this current system. We have tracked the regional princes of Persia, Greece, and Rome. But today, we move toward the center of the web. We are unmasking the one the New Testament calls the Archon tu Kosmou Tutu, the prince of this world. This is not a metaphor for human evil. It is the biblical identification of Satan as the high-ranking spiritual CEO of the global rebellion. By the end of this study, you will see exactly how he holds this title and why his time is running out. To find the ruler of the nations today, we have to follow the flight of the eagle. In the ancient world, the eagle was the Aquila, the divine soul of the Roman legion. It represented a kingdom of iron that crushed everything in its path. History tells us Rome fell, but prophecy tells us the spirit behind it simply moved its nest. Look at the foundations of the modern West. From the pillars of the Capitol to the structure of the Senate, the blueprint is unmistakably Roman. But the most haunting connection is the symbol itself. The eagle, which once led the legions across Europe, now sits atop the seal of the world's only global superpower. This isn't just a nod to history, it is a spiritual migration. If the Prince of Rome was the architect of the Iron Kingdom, then the spirit of the eagle is the wings that gave that iron its global reach. The seat of power shifted from the Tiber to the Potomac, but the invisible hand on the scepter remained the same. To understand how Satan became the prince of this world, we must return to the moment the nations were first divided. The foundational lens for our entire journey is found in the Deuteronomy 32 worldview. Deuteronomy 32, 8-9 tells us, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. As we have discussed, these sons of God, B'nai Ha-Elohim, were heavenly beings, assigned to the nations after the rebellions at Babel. But let's go deeper into the Hebrew text here. The word for boundaries, Gebul, doesn't just mean a fence, it implies a spiritual jurisdiction. God essentially performed a divine divorce from humanity. He gave the 70 nations over to these lesser Elohim, while keeping Israel as his own portion. But these administrators did not remain loyal. Psalm 82 gives us a transcript of God judging these beings. He says, "How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? I said, you are gods, you are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals." This confirms that the rulers of the nations are real, sentient, rebellious entities. Satan is the entity who coordinates this entire council of rebellious spirits. He is the prince who oversees the lesser princes of the earth. In the ancient Near Eastern context, this is a high king ruling over vassal kings. Satan doesn't need to be everywhere at once. He operates through a chain of command that mimics the structure of God's own heavenly host. But how did he get this legal right? In the wilderness of Judea, Satan's claim is laid bare. In Matthew 4, 8, 9, the devil shows Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and says, All this I will give you if you will bow down and worship me. We must look at the word worship, proskuneo. It means to prostrate oneself, to acknowledge a superior rank. Satan was offering Jesus a shortcut to the throne. But notice the legal claim. Satan says this authority has been delivered to him. In the Garden of Eden, humanity was given the mandate to rule the earth. When we obeyed the serpent, we effectively handed over our proxy. This is why the New Testament calls Satan the god of this age. He holds the lease on the kingdoms of men because humanity signed it over to him. This was not a theft. It was a transfer of title. Until that lease is legally terminated, Satan remains the prince in a judicial sense. To understand the prince's ambition, we must look at the I wills of Isaiah 14. This is where we meet Hillel ben Shashar, the Shining One, son of the dawn. He declares, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. In ancient Near Eastern geography, Mount Zaphon was the Mount of the North, the dwelling place of the gods. Satan's goal has always been to occupy the Mount of Assembly, to lead the council of the Bene Ha-Elohim that God assigned to the nations. He isn't just a rogue angel. He is a rival king attempting to organize the spiritual rulers of Persia, Greece, and Rome into a single, unified cabinet against the Creator. Hold on. This next detail changes everything. We have seen the individual beasts of Daniel 7, the lion, the bear, the leopard, and the iron beast of Rome. For centuries, these regional powers fought for dominance. But as we move into the final stages of history, these regional spirits merge. In Revelation 13, John sees a single creature rise from the sea. It is a composite beast with the mouth of a lion, the feet of a bear, and the body of a leopard. This is the Babel 2.0 project. Satan is no longer content with regional skirmishes between Persia and Greece. He is moving toward a unified, global beast system. And look at Revelation 13:2. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. The Bible identifies this dragon as that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan. This is the ultimate merger and acquisition. The regional managers of Persia, Greece, and Rome have been integrated into a global hierarchy under the CEO of chaos. This is the cosmos, the ordered system of rebellion that seeks to put all nations back under one roof. The mouth of a lion suggests the religious propaganda of Babylon. The feet of a bear suggests the crushing administrative weight of Persia, and the body of a leopard suggests the speed and cultural infiltration of Greece. All of these are now unified under the authority of the dragon. This is where the connection to the Iron Eagle becomes so critical. Satan uses the structure of human empires like Rome and its modern successors to build a platform for his final global system. He is the broadcaster of the air, as Ephesians 2:2 calls him, the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. Let's unpack that word, air, air. In the ancient world, the air was the space between the earth and the moon, the realm of influence. It was the spiritual atmosphere of the planet. Satan rules by controlling the frequency of human thought. He broadcasts ideologies, lusts, and pride. He doesn't just rule with tanks and planes. He rules with music, media, and education. He is the prince of the power of the air, because he controls the invisible environment in which the sons of disobedience live and breathe. But why does he use the eagle? Throughout history, the eagle has been the signature of the prince. It is the predator that sees all from above. In Hebrew, the word for eagle is nesher. In ancient symbolism, it is often associated with high places and divine judgment. When Rome adopted the eagle, they were signaling their connection to the Numen, the divine spirit of the empire. When that eagle migrated to the west, it brought with it the same spirit of global surveillance and military dominance. The prince of this world is using the modern eagle to create a global surveillance state, a technological version of the all-seeing eye of the ancient princes. He is preparing the world for a system where no one can buy or sell without his authorization. He is trying to finish what Nimrod started at Babel. We must now perform a deep dive into the moment his throne began to crack. To understand the legal defeat of Satan, we have to look at the strong man's house parable in Mark 3:27. Jesus says, "In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Then he can plunder the strong man's house." In this cosmic exegesis, the strong man is the prince of this world. His house is the nations of the earth. For thousands of years, he kept the nations bound in the darkness of the Deuteronomy 32 disinheritance. But Jesus came as the stronger man. By his sinless life and sacrificial death, he tied up the legal authority of the prince. In John 12:31, Jesus says, "Now is the judgment of this world. Now the prince of this world will be driven out." At the cross, a legal transaction occurred that the prince of this world did not anticipate. In 1 Corinthians chapter 2:8, Paul says, "None of the rulers of this age understood it, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory." Satan thought that by killing the heir, he could claim the inheritance, the earth forever. But the cross was a divine trap. Because Jesus was sinless, Satan had no legal claim on him. When Satan instigated the murder of the Son of God, he committed a crime against the universal law. He overstepped his jurisdiction. By killing an innocent man, Satan's own legal claim to the nations was forfeited. Jesus disarmed the powers and authorities, stripping them of their rank. In the Greek, this word is apektisamenos, which refers to a soldier being stripped of his armor and belt in front of the whole army. It was a public disgrace. Legally, Satan was evicted 2,000 years ago. He is no longer the rightful prince. He is a dethroned prince who is refusing to vacate the premises. So why is he still here? Think of it as a deposed squatter. Legally, the king has returned and reclaimed the deed to the earth. The Lion of Judah has won the right to open the scrolls of the earth's deed. But the squatter refuses to leave the palace until the king physically arrives to remove him. We are currently living in that overlap period, the already but not yet. Satan is a defeated usurper, running a global psychological operation to convince you he still holds the keys. He is the prince of this world only until the king physically returns to establish his throne. He is fighting a rearguard action, trying to take as many people with him as possible before the Prince Slayer arrives. Consider the Prince of Rome and his migration into the West. When Rome became the primary vehicle for the spirit of the eagle, it established a legal and cultural framework that would eventually cover the globe. But just as the regional princes of Daniel were eventually judged, the prince of this world is facing his final sentencing. In the Second Temple period, literature and the manuscript notes of the New Testament, we see a recurring theme. The prince's influence is tied to the times of the Gentiles. This is the window of opportunity where he is allowed to broadcast his rebellion until the fullness of the Gentiles comes in. We are living in the final seconds of that window. Understanding this takes the mystery out of the headlines. When you see the nations rushing toward a unified, godless agenda, you aren't seeing progress. You're seeing the composite beast trying to reassemble the bricks of Babel. You are seeing the dragon frantically trying to consolidate his power before his lease expires. But for those who have been transferred into the kingdom of the beloved Son, we have changed our spiritual citizenship. We are no longer taking orders from the Archon of the air. We are an embassy of heaven in a territory that is currently being liberated. This changes the way we fight. Our weapons are not carnal. We don't fight the Iron Eagle with human weapons. We fight it with the truth of the cross. We engage in spiritual warfare, which is simply the act of enforcing the king's victory in a rebellious territory. When we pray, we are reminding the prince of this world of his disarming. We are saying, "Your lease is up. You have no authority here." This is why the enemy fears a praying church, because prayer is the legal enforcement of the cross in the air over our cities. It is the active resistance of the ambassadors. The prince of this world believes his throne is secure. He has hijacked the eagle and built a system so vast that no human army can topple it. He has merged the spirits of Persia, Greece, and Rome into a single global beast. But he knows his history. He remembers the ancient battles in the second heaven. He knows that his time is short because he knows who is coming to serve the final warrant. He knows there is a prince of the heavenly host who has already defeated him once and is authorized to do it again. We have seen the ancient spirits of Persia and Greece. We have unmasked the Prince of Rome and the migration of the spirit of the eagle. Today, we have unmasked Satan, the CEO of the rebellion itself. But the story doesn't end with a shadowy ruler on a throne of iron. It ends with a champion. It ends with a king who does not need to usurp authority because all authority in heaven and on earth has already been given to him. In our series finale, we move from the darkness of the usurper to the brilliance of the champion. We are going to look at the one being the prince of this world fears most, the one authorized to cast him out forever. Get ready for the final chapter. The Prince Slayer, Michael's victory. The king is coming.